Roots 101 Deeply Rooted. From the vibrant and storied heart of America, brought to you by the Roots 101 African American Museum. This is the Deeply Rooted Podcast, where we pay homage to the unsung heroes, the pillars of our community, the inventors, the artists, the activists, and our ancestors by highlighting Black excellence of yesterday, today, and tomorrow. Your guide on this journey, none other than the passionate and insightful Lamont Collins, a visionary, a mentor, a scholar, and most importantly, a griot of African American history and culture. So sit back, tune in, and let's dive deep into the rich soil as we get deeply rooted.
Good evening. This is Lamont Collins, Deeply Rooted. Our podcast today, we come with Black excellence, and we come with history, and we come with the community. And today I got community and education. I have Mr. John Marshall with Jefferson County Public Schools. John, welcome to Roots 101. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me. It is an honor to be here, and I'm very excited to be a part of the Roots 101 as you continue to grow and move and activate students and community through history and learning. So very appreciative of what you do.
Well, I'm appreciative of what you do. Can you tell people actually who John Marshall is and what does John Marshall do for Jefferson County Public Schools?
Sure. First and foremost, I'm a Louisville native, most important. I am also the Chief Equity Officer for Jefferson County Public Schools. What does that mean? I'm the one that actually talks about what students need as we celebrate what students have. I'm responsible for making sure we talk about what students don't quite have or need to get or are starting to get. So my job is to really focus around student needs, particularly our most marginalized, muted, and mistreated students in Jefferson County Public Schools.
And you just said a mouthful, but you said it with passion and conviction. And I think that's how you operate.
Yes.
When you talk about equity, people knock it, don't understand it, and here you are implementing it, right? What is the best, what is the most difficult part of your job? Is it people not understanding what the purpose is, or what? What is it?
I've decided earlier in the career, I thought people didn't understand what equity is. I think people understand what equity is, and some just don't want to do it. Equity is a very simple concept. It's giving people what they need. So we have started to kind of water down. We've started to kind of water down what it is, or we started to kind of politically capture equity. What my job is specifically and simply to make sure students and families get what they need. So when we start talking about why equity is misunderstood, I don't think it's as misunderstood as people want it to be. It's underappreciated, and we understand when everybody starts getting what they need, the hierarchy in which we see in America will be overturned. And then those of us that might not have ever really experienced equity as a community, as a collective, if they start getting it, it changes the color of the nation, literally and metaphorically.
Right. But it also changes the difficulty that you have to go through to make that happen, right?
Correct.
And give me some examples of difficulty in your position, you implementing something, and it becomes personal to you.
Sure. So we've seen it from Maine to Hawaii, this legislative attack on DEI work, on diversity, equity, inclusion. We are now in a point in America where legislators are saying the word diversity, the word equity, and the word inclusion are outlawed bad words. So the difficulty becomes when the power of those words becomes muted or bastardized to actually create an agenda that goes against what DEI is, that becomes a problem, right? So as we start saying, let's create a school that's targeting Black males in curriculum, that supports something as beautiful as Roots 101, that where Roots 101 could manifest itself even more, and Roots 101 becomes a part of something called the Du Bois Academy of Excellence. What does that mean? That means we're putting students in a place to get educational attainment about who they are, why they are, and what they should become. But what we run into is we don't need a school like that. But what we also look at it, when you look at the data and you see all these schools that are put together, Maine to Hawaii now, right? You see all these schools that are put together, but you don't see the growth and the gains and the belonging and the understanding, and we don't understand why that is. It's the curriculum of America. I've heard you talk about it. We always talk about curriculum as in JCPS or public school. There's an American curriculum that includes finance, that includes housing, that includes justice and education. The curriculum of America has always been to miseducate, mute, and mistreat certain people. So when we start addressing the curriculum of the public school, which is just one tenet of the American curriculum, then that becomes a problem.
Yeah, miseducation of the Negro.
The miseducation of the Negro.
Yeah. And when I, like I said, I've become your
Sorry.
biggest fan that I've got to know you. I remember you in high school, know your
Mhm.
family, your wife's family, and your mom was a teacher and
Yes.
administrator, right?
Yes.
So you've been under education all your life.
Born and raised in it.
And at this time, 2024, you have more of a bullseye on you than when your mom was doing her thing back when it was hard to do her thing. Is that
Mhm.
not right?
Right.
So what kind of conversations do you and your mom have about the same old thing, but in a different?
So my mom is a true Black mom, right?
Mhm.
Like she hates and disapproves of anything happening to her baby. But she understands through the grace of God and through her strength and her prayers and my dad's prayers and family that I was built for a time like this.
Mhm.
So she gives me days and hours and weeks to complain, but she never gives me a time not to put my clothes on and go to work.
That's right.
So my mom tells me, John, they're saying this, this, and this about your work. The reason they're saying this, this, and this about your work is because your work works.
Mm.
So you got to get up and go to it. And that's a Bonnie Marshall quote. So mom, they're picking on me because that's my mom's shoulder is still, we know, like you got a something down there, or used to have something down there about grandmama's house.
Yeah, still
My
there.
mom's bosom is still the most healing bosom in America for me. So I will still hold her and cry to her, but she will let me do that for a minute.
Right.
Because it's bigger than John Marshall,
Yeah.
right? There's a whole bunch of John Marshalls in Lamont Collins that need John Marshall to not just endure but resist.
Yeah, and I, my mother's
I'm
saying
so
to me was, "What did you say?"
Right.
So when I went to school, if I was in a, we moved to our white neighborhood, and white kid may say something to me, and I'll go, "Hey, mom," and she said, "Well, what did you say?"
Mm-hmm.
So she forced me to know what to say, know my education, know my worth, and never let people take that away.
Right.
So that was word from my mom was,
Right.
what did
Mhm.
you say?
Yep.
What's your word to you? What was your mom? What was her word?
Look right, do right, act right, and know that you come right.
Yeah, that's beautiful stuff.
Yeah.
So today, when I look at what you do and how you do it,
Mm-hmm.
and really the council mentality of America, right?
Right.
And how many people want to counsel what you do,
Mm-hmm.
whether it was you or someone else,
Right.
but especially you, Black male, Black family, Black
Mhm.
role model,
Mhm.
Black fraternity brother,
Mm-hmm.
all these things that blacker than black in a
Right.
sense,
Right.
and you don't run away from that.
Unapologetic.
So when people come at you, how do you maintain, the position you're in? You're the second highest, if I remember, board member, not board
Mhm.
member, but administrator in Jefferson County,
Mhm.
right? Working with black, in people's mind, the black
stuff.
the black stuff. So how
Right.
can the black stuff be
Right.
worthy of that kind of income? So
Mhm.
how do you wrestle with that, or do you wrestle with
I
that?
don't wrestle with it. The cancel culture is real, but in order to be canceled, you have to exist. So I exist. So you can't cancel what doesn't exist. And if you want to cancel something, there's a couple of reasons. It's not good, or it's not good for you. But what this is, it's not good for those that want to maintain a status quo that does not exist. So this cancel culture is very, very powerful. Like the social media court of public opinion, good, bad, or indifferent, is out there. But you have to be, and it's hard. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say that there's some days where I just don't want to pack it up and go in. But the cancel culture that we are experiencing, that I think will be here forever, can only happen if you exist. So you first have to realize you exist and refuse to be canceled, because cancel is one step closer to killing, and you just can't accept that.
Right, and then I think you use we talk all the time. When I asked you that question one time, and especially about the salary thing, which should not be a question, but let's say it is a question. You said a beautiful quote to me when I said, "What do you say about the amount of money you made?" And you made the point where you came from and
Right.
how you deserved it.
Right. Well,
Let's do that one for me.
To me, that's important. I don't hide from it. I'm glad that it's out there. I want someone that came from where I come from, starting on 36. Then we moved on up and moved to Newburgh. Then we really moved up and moved off 6 Mile Lane. So I want someone to see that and say, that's good. I want someone to see that and say, that's not what John does. That's what God does in return. But I also want someone to say, he makes this, I'm going to triple that in that position.
Right.
So the next chief equity officer, or the chief equity officer 20 years from now that sits in this position, I hope he or she makes $400,000. Because if you do your job good in any position, any profession, you're underpaid. I don't care what it is. You could be the best whatever, but if you do it your best, you're underpaid for it. So unapologetically, that's what I make, and I'm glad that it's out there. I want more people to look at it, not to scrutinize it, but to challenge themselves and make more, because I want the next John Marshall on this side of the West End or Newburgh or wherever to triple that.
Now, do you ever get hate mail?
All the time. I plan to I plan to write a book called "Meet Me at the Flagpole" or "You Can't Whoop Me." And what it is,
wait, meet me at the flagpole.
That might be the title.
And you can't whip. And you
or
can't whip.
one, it's going to be "Meet Me at the Flagpole" or "You Can't Whoop Me."
I love it.
So I have a book, but what it is, and Dr. Jones and I talk about it all the time. I have a folder. I just keep all my fan mail, and I'm going to take some of the
Fan mail.
I'm going to take some of the most egregious ones and write responses.
Okay.
But I want to show what Louisville really is. You'd be amazed at some of the things that people think and call me or the work and assume. But I mean, it's proof that you're doing something. The fact that you sit down and write this poorly written letter, or that you have this many sentiments about what I'm doing, that means I'm not canceled. That means I exist. So let's take it on. And the funny thing is, a lot of them will, come up with phony emails, and a lot of them don't even put their names. But I got a whole folder of it. But it is scary, right? Like you can't take this lightly. There's people getting shot for less for what I'm doing. But you got to go. You got to go do this work.
When you talk, and like I said, I love talking to you because I love your heart and compassion and your dedication to all the community, but specifically for the community that looks like us. And we talk about schools like Du Bois, and we talk about Grace James, which you can explain to those that don't live in Louisville what kind of schools they are. Can we talk about those kind of schools?
So Grace James Academy is a school targeting with the interest and focus for African-American females in leadership, science, technology, engineering, arts, math. Without a doubt, and you host the Du Bois versus Grace James quiz bowl, and the girls been tearing them up for the last
2 years.
Last 2 years, but that is targeted.
But the girls are older.
Yes.
And we don't, they're older. How young women are more mature more than young brothers.
But they still tore them up.
They tear them up.
So we created that school under the leadership of this superintendent and the board, understanding and admitting that there are some inequities that we can prove can be addressed in public schools. So this is a school on public dollars, unapologetically, as people complain about taxes, on public dollars that should be a model school. It actually can happen. It can happen when you put fertile ground, pour the right amount of water, and put the right nutrients in it. You don't have this thing called the gap. You don't have this thing called misbehaved children. You don't have this thing called disengaged kids. So that's for our girls. And Du Bois Academy, which is older than Grace James Academy, started. Well, they're about to be seniors this year, man. 7 years ago, and they're doing well too. But it was intended to be a model school for proof that everything around Black boys is not broken. Everything around Black boys is broken. So when we talk about Black boys, are we talking about them breaking, or are we talking about a system that has broke them, or it's a broken system? And again, I'm very leery on saying that because the system's not broken. It's doing exactly what it's designed to do.
Well, what happens if Du Bois becomes a need to be a high school? Is that a whole different animal?
It's already a high school. They're going to graduate.
That's right, Birdie Grad.
Yeah.
That's right. I forgot about that. So do you, and you guys all, well, let's say a high school, but now you winning in sports.
Right.
Now winning in class, winning in the classroom is one thing. They ain't really worried about you winning in the classroom. But what happens in high school and you start whipping butt in track field, bats? What happens then?
So I think, and you've seen this, you know this, that's a good leading question. What happens when you become a titan of all things academic and athletic? It becomes a capital grab, right? I won't say which national conglomerate of athletics called us when they heard Du Bois was coming, but athletic companies or companies that have sportswear, if you follow me, was one of the first conglomerates to call when they heard. There's a school in Louisville, Kentucky. Supposed to the mega hub of basketball. It's going to have all Black boys. Before Microsoft called, before NASA called, before some of these, a sports fitness, a sports apparel conglomerate called. That's the curriculum of America that I'm talking about. Before the academic cognition stuff and all the great, someone said, there's a next LeBron coming up.
Yeah, we can put shoes down here. We can put a gymnasium, all those things.
Come on.
Yeah.
Called before any of that. Now, Microsoft came in quick, and there's some other ones there, but it was amazing to me, and it was a reminder what they really, the commodification of Black bodies is still truly a problem and real.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you answered, because I've been thinking, what happened when that school starts winning? Oh, it's coming.
I mean, Grace James ain't playing.
No, because they handled it this year.
Dude. They were rolling.
Yeah. So when they continue to win, and now we're gonna go into divisions A1, double A, triple A. That's gonna be a whole diagram, and they got a golf team.
Mm-hmm.
Can you imagine these black brothers starting getting on that golf course?
And if you remember, we were over there. It's funny, we broke ground for Du Bois Academy behind Thomas Jefferson Middle School.
Oh, wow.
So they're going to have their own campus with all the. Right now, neither one of the schools have a full-fledged school with all the facilities. Imagine when all the facilities get there and the academics continue to go up, what we're going to have. We will rival any of those other schools that have all those things, public and private.
Right, but then they're going to say you're a private black school.
Correct.
That's the next issue.
And back in the day, that'd be something to argue. They can think what they want. Okay. Morehouse exists. Unapologetically, it's going to keep existing. We're going to have a public school Morehouse. We're going to have a public school Spelman, period.
So what happens when, I always tell people, I said, John, just like going in the gym, he conditioned himself each year to deal with the battles. Is that about right?
Yes.
And I think you at that point now that you hooked out. So now that you hooked out, you have no fear of consequences. I mean, you know to do the job correctly, but what I'm saying is there's no fear to your movement, right? So now that you're at that point, now that you can go to the table and say, I want this for our children, I want this and I want that. And if I don't, we need to keep discussing it. But did you find yourself ever looking in the mirror like maybe you're going too far, or fear is not part of the option?
No, and I don't know. I think fear is okay, but paralysis is worse. I still go to school. I still go to work fearful of what could happen, but it just doesn't paralyze me. I'm not foolish enough or unblessed enough to realize that, it can't happen, but it just can't keep me turtled in a shell, right? So, yes, there are days where I'm still a little nervous, not to say anything, but to do certain parts of the stuff. But all you got to do is walk through a museum like this. All you got to do is look at the things that are going on in America. And my fear should not trump, no pun intended, me to be
I don't
paralyzed.
see that name, I'm just kidding.
Right, to be paralyzed. So yes, the fear is fine. And I tell young chief equity officers this all the time and inspire, and even teachers, you be fearful, just don't be immobile. You got to go forward. When Sister Harriet was taking brothers and sisters up out of there, everybody was scared. You just got to go though.
Yeah. See, when you talk, and I love what you're saying because you're using history as a momentum and as a concrete part of who you are, which means you know the story, right? And because your mother raised you, father raised you out knowing our story, you walking, I always say kids walk different, talk different, become different when they know what's inside of them. Right. So it's so important to pour that inside of them. And I think you guys have done a good job of you allow Roots to be part of that, educational of that. Now, I mean, kids coming here, man, you saw how they look and how they walk.
They leave different.
They do. And nobody can doubt that.
And the teachers and the adults leave different.
Oh, teachers, I get caught. And I hope one day that can even expand more of what we do, because we all know as educators that it matters,
Absolutely.
Right? And the white kids leave out here because they never knew the story with a different respect than what mom and dad had told them. So I think we're on the right track here in Louisville under your leadership, what you're doing, and other teachers. And I see so many teachers. I always say that teachers nowadays used to be when I was younger, the most admired people in the community were school teachers.
Right.
No doubt.
Period.
A black school teacher was the most admired person in the community. And I think we got somewhere in the generation we start telling our children, teachers don't make enough, go do something else. And I think we robbed our community when we did that.
I agree.
Right? So with what you do, are you guys trying to recruit young kids to try to be teachers as you go through?
Yes, we're trying to. And it's hard because you can, there's no debate. You can make more doing something else, but can you make more of a difference doing something else?
Yes.
And it's got to be intrinsic. Teaching is not something you do, it's a calling. It's really mission work, black, white, green, or whatever, but it's very, very hard. So now what I've understood, when there's someone that actually says, I want to be a teacher, and it doesn't require the recruiting, and you can really almost tell, they're going to kick butt and take names because they understand what it is. And if you look around and kind of just do a temperature check on where public ed is, you got to be a soldier to enter this now. And those people that want to enter it or finally do need to make a difference. And that we try to recruit, but we also still try to get those genuine diamond in the roughs that just should be teaching, and we try to harness those and keep those as well.
Yeah, I would say when I learned in life, it wasn't about business accomplishment. When I got into this museum, I started being purpose driven.
Right.
And once I found that what purposely drove me, it was bigger than a dollar.
Right.
It was just, I do this every day because I'm planting seeds. But
Right.
you planting seeds too, and what you're
Trying.
doing, yeah. But
Yeah.
I mean, JCPS now versus when I was in school is night and day.
Absolutely. I
Night and
agree.
day. And it's going to continue to rise. But my question as an administrator, when you look at this busing issue as far as transportation goes, and I know what side you're on, but let's talk about the hardships that our kids will see, Black and brown children, even kids that I found yesterday, foster kids. What whole group is going to be involved being hurt by the transportation issue?
Well, and we have to be honest about this. Let me be clear. Where a student goes is not as important as what they get when they go there.
Okay.
So if you want to stay, if Roots 101 had a public school, I expect Roots 101 to teach and treat kids appropriately. So when we get into this whole where the kids go, I understand that. But we also have to understand, and this is one of the things you do well, when we were looking for civil rights and educational equality, we didn't beg to sit beside white people. We wanted resources.
Right.
So if you resource wherever I am correctly, we can do well. Back to Du Bois and Grace James. So when we talk about transporting students, I think we get very minuscule in talking about transporting them on the other side of Broadway, on the other side of 6 Mile Lane. We need to transport them to success.
Okay.
So as we are looking at access and opportunities, it is my job to make sure there's access and opportunities in every school. It is my job and my dream to close your eyes, throw a dart, whatever school you hit, it becomes a good school. We are not there yet. So I think sometimes when we talk about busing and we talk about transportation, it begins to overpower what's supposed to happen when you get inside that schoolhouse. In that schoolhouse, you got pictures down there. There's one-room schoolhouses back in the day that were flat out teaching with less than nothing. Should we be satisfied with that? No. But it is my expectation now that this has passed, it is my expectation, my job, and my calling to make sure wherever that child goes, he or she must get what they need. And we have to be clear. There are students that live way out there in Lake Forest Drive that look like you and I. He or she is going to experience something a little different now too in a predominantly white school too. And I need to make sure those schools recognize that as well. It's a very complex situation, Lamont, and it's very hard to talk about. Especially it's hard to talk to people that don't understand the symbol of buses, literally the historical symbol of buses and Black people. It's very hard to understand the history of how Louisville was very divided, but it's even harder if you don't understand the curriculum of America and what we're getting away from and what we need to make sure we demand. I absolutely hate having discussions about where kids are going that end there as opposed to what happens when they get there.
Yeah, and I agree. But, when I went to school, there was, you see how many kids, how many adults I deal with today that tell me the story of trauma when they were in school.
Correct.
Now, I didn't have much trauma. I was an athlete, so I bypassed a lot of it, but I saw it and stood up to it. But there's some serious trauma to education.
Absolutely.
And I think it's even relevant today, right? So how are you dealing with those kids that are dealing? Is it by what's in the school, the curriculum, the teachers, what they look like? Does that matter what the teachers look?
Everything you just said. And the trauma is real, right? Like I am actually one of those students that would ace a test, but knew I aced it, but I put incorrect answers on purpose to fit in. I put incorrect answers when the principal wanted to announce my ACT score over the intercom. I didn't want to do it. I begged him not to do it because I was even inoculated into believing my job is to run, be cute, be funny. I can't make bad grades because my mom and dad wasn't having it. But there was this curriculum of false understanding of who I was supposed to be.
Well, see, I don't know if you was cute. I don't know if you was fast. I can't attest to any of that.
I was all of that.
It's amazing what, of that. Yeah, it's amazing what we think we were. Give me a yearbook.
But no, so that idea of academic attainment, I think we've also lost sometimes with integration.
Yes.
You understand what I'm saying? So I'm sitting in the advanced program classes with my twin brother and just a few of us and the other ones. I'm actually acting up because I thought that's what everybody was supposed to be doing.
Right.
I'm smarter than everybody in that room.
Yeah.
But I refuse to do that. What we need in schools is for a teacher to look at you and say, Lamont, you're the smartest person on earth.
Did I ever tell you what George Johnson? Everybody remember George Johnson was his teacher?
Mm-hmm.
George used to go. You'd be in a gym class, and I was at Seneca Junior High School,
Mm-hmm.
and George was a AD or something. But anyway, he would go in and he'll isolate the different guys in the gym, the ones that could play or whatever. And and I found this out later, but he would pull you to the side. He said, "Hey, Collins, I need your help." He said, "You're the leader, so I need you to help lead these kids, right?" So and then when you find out later, he told every kid in the gym.
That's good teaching.
Yeah, he told everybody they were leaders.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, okay, that's how you do it.
That's how you do it.
You give affirmation
And
to
he
everybody.
made you believe that.
Yeah, but I was.
Right.
But anyway.
I believe you.
Yeah, but anyway, man, I have to get you back. This is what Deeply Rooted's about.
Mm-hmm.
It's about the community. It's about Black excellence. It's about humor.
Right.
And it's about us having a passion for young people.
Right.
And I always say the greatest king plants shade trees, knowing never set up under.
Mm-hmm.
And you definitely are planting shade trees to change the educational system in Louisville.
And I appreciate what you do for community. I appreciate what this museum brings, and I appreciate.
Thank you. But we'll take more of your budget now if y'all want to put it.
We got some ideas coming up, so we'll be circling back around.
I'll be asking. All right. This is Lamont Collins, Deeply Rooted. Remember, legacies matter, and so do you.